We're about to celebrate the new year with a Batman Christmas story. How does that work? Let's find out. Hi, my name's Stu and welcome to another review video on Flying Wiener. I'm talking about a film that most probably, if you were not on Amazon Prime, because I believe it's distributed worldwide on Amazon Prime, if you weren't on there, then you probably missed Merry Little Batman, which is an animated film centered on Batman. It came out in early December, and like I say, I believe it is being distributed worldwide by Amazon Prime. Yeah, so as you can imagine, I am a Batman fan, and I enjoy Christmas stories usually. I mean, just last week I talked about, let me think, I've just forgotten about what I talked about. I talked about Arthur Christmas, and that was it. If you missed that by any chance, I'll leave a link to it at the end of this video. Definitely a worthwhile film that you should watch at Christmas, especially if you don't want the same old boring tale. And I would say the same thing about this, although this is less a Christmas story and it's more just a Batman story set at Christmas. So yes, I mean, thematically, the season, etc., it is Christmas, but you know, we don't have Santa Claus and these kind of things. But yeah. Anyway, that being said, I heard a lot about the film. I heard about that it was good, wanted to check it out. It's got an age restriction, that's it. I'm a bit at a loss for words today. Age restriction of, I think it was 7 years and up, so I thought, yeah, okay, I think I'll be fine for my 3-year-old daughter. I was there to explain anything that needed explained, and I know from the Lego games that she's a fan of the Joker, so I was like, okay, I'm sure she'd enjoy this, and she did. Don't know what she thought of the film as a whole. It's a bit hard to gauge her opinion, but yeah, sure, she enjoyed it. Anyway, what is this film about? I suppose we should start the whole thing off, I mean, getting stuck into it, by talking about the plot. So it's a Batman story, as I already said. Now, you may not be familiar if you haven't really looked at Batman comics in the last 10 or so years. You might not be aware that in the comics, he actually has a son now, Batman does. So Bruce Wayne has got a son, his name is Damian Wayne. If you want any details, the mother is Talia al Ghul, who is with the League of Shadows, Ra's al Ghul's daughter, if that's a name that sounds familiar to you. They sort of, got together, at least liked each other enough to have a son together. And he lives with Bruce Wayne, with Batman. So his name is Damian Wayne. He's a bit of a mischievous kid, especially, I mean, the versions that I've seen. The older versions, this one is a bit younger. The older ones, he starts off by being trained by the League of Shadows, so he's got a lot of their mentality and sort of black and white view of the world, where if someone's criminal, you know, they get executed and removed from society because they're not worthwhile. Obviously, Batman doesn't share those sentiments, and he tries to convince Damian, you know, that that's the way it should be, that you should not just execute people just because they've done something bad in their lives. But that's later on, like I say. So this is a younger version of Damian Wayne. This is without all that luggage. This version has obviously been with Bruce Wayne for his entire childhood. And interestingly, what I really like about this version is we find out that actually there's no crime in Gotham anymore. So Bruce Wayne as Batman, when he learned that he was going to have a son, he was like, right, I need to prepare for this situation, and number one is not having to be Batman anymore, or at least not in Gotham City anymore. So he worked overtime to remove all crime. All of his typical villains were all locked away, and Gotham was declared crime-free, and apparently it's been like that for years and years while Damon was growing up. Now, I've kind of forgotten what age he's supposed to be in this story. I think he's supposed to be about 7 or 8, something like that. So that's quite a few years for, especially Gotham, to be without crime. So Bruce Wayne has been focusing on his son. He's grown a beard, and yeah, all he thinks about and all he devotes his day to is his son. And his son knows that he is Batman and all the things that he's done, so he's not keeping a secret from him. And his big dream, of course, is to be a superhero himself one day. That is how we're introduced to him at the start of the film. He's chasing the family cat, who is named Selina, for, of course, Selina Kyle, Catwoman, if you're not familiar. He's chasing Selina through the house, you know, pretending that she is Catwoman and he's Batman, and he's obviously trying to retrieve the stolen item. So that's how I introduced him. So he one day wants to be a big superhero, and he's been told that there are certain qualities that a superhero needs to have which Damian does not possess. So this is a part of the story, and what happens here is it's all about his utility belt. Bruce Wayne gives Damian one of, I think it even says it's his first utility belt. Instead of having all the cool versions of the gadgets in the belt, he has these soft versions, these child-safe versions in there. So instead of a batarang, I mean, he has a batarang, but it's made of this soft material, so it just bounces off things, you know, it doesn't have sharp edges, just as an example. It's got a button on it, that's an alarm, you know, and it's a baby alarm, basically. Yeah, and he's explaining to him, you know, that he has to first prove that he's got the qualities of a superhero before he can actually be one, because Damian is of the opinion he can already go out, you know, and be a superhero, and obviously that's not quite the case at 8 years old. So what happens? Batman then, out of the blue, he gets a phone call, and it's been years, and we see his study, which is all dusty and everything is covered in sheets and all these things because no one's been there for years. His bat phone rings, and it's the Justice League, and they need him for an emergency, and it's Christmas Eve, you know, and he's reluctant to go because obviously he wants to be with Damian, and there are other people out there in the Justice League who could take care of it, but apparently no, we need Batman to do it. So off he goes, leaves Damian there with Alfred the butler, who in this version is really, really old and frail, and says, yeah, basically, don't get up to any mischief, although he knows that Damian is quite the mischievous guy, and he'll be back as quick as he can. So what does happen? What is the actual plot of the story? There are two people who break into the Wayne house. So although we are led to believe that crime doesn't exist anymore, it does exist, or at least it's reappearing again. You know, that is not actually clarified whether this has been going on in the background a lot or whether this is just, but I'm assuming the latter, so that it's just reappearing now. Anyway, so we've got this couple and they're going around burgling homes, and one of them is the Wayne Manor. Damian, of course, sees that as his big opportunity. He wants to fend them off, etc. And while he manages, they take his utility belt with them. He chases after them, only to discover that there's a bit of a deeper plot going on here. There's actually been, I mean, this is a spoiler, I suppose, for the story, but you can kind of predict this if you are a comics fan. Batman's typical villains have been plotting this, so they were trying to find a way to bring crime back, and so this was their starting shot. Basically, you know, starting with these burglaries, etc. And because this is set at Christmas, they're like, okay, what can we do, you know, as a big sort of demonstration of crime being back, etc. They said they're going to steal Christmas, so the whole thing is about them stealing presents. So that is more or less the story we've got here. I won't actually delve much more into the plot itself. So we've got Batman away on a mission. We've got Damian Wayne. He is trying to retrieve his utility belt while at the same time learning what it means to be a superhero and sacrifices that need to be made and the qualities he still needs to develop or obtain before he can be one. And we've got the villains trying to steal Christmas, right? So that is the basic plot. So like I say, it's not a typical Christmassy story with Santa, etc., but it's set at Christmas, involves those elements. Yeah, the interesting thing is Batman isn't really that much a part of this story, so we are really focused on Damian Wayne as Batman in a way. And I thought that was quite surprising, but it's actually very welcome, because why not? It's obviously aimed at a younger audience, and so this absolutely makes sense. I actually quite enjoyed that because we've got this rebellious Damian Wayne. They even bring out, you know, the punk rock music and all these kind of elements. So he is quite fun to watch. He, I mean, not exactly clumsy, but he does get into a lot of troublesome situations where he at least appears clumsy, or where he does things without thinking of you know, the consequences of his actions. That's basically a lot of the things that happen, because while he's in Gotham trying to solve things, trying to get his utility belt, he causes a lot of problems, a lot of trouble. And he's seen as a troublemaker. So yeah, so he learns a lot about this. The art style is quite distinct, I feel. I'm not too big of a fan of it. Everything looks like a bit, not exactly ugly, but if you know what I mean, you know, it's that kind of, that's the way I would portray it. It's kind of, everything looks a bit ugly in a way. which I'm not too big a fan of. So, but it's fine. I mean, it kind of fits, I suppose. It's a bit also, maybe you could also say a bit simplistic, I suppose, because we are watching a story from a child's perspective. I suppose that makes sense because a child would draw things a bit simply, so that makes sense. The characters are fine. I mean, I thought Alfred in particular was funny because he's old and frail and everything. Yeah, if you're wondering where is he in all of this, he is out to get some marshmallows for Damian's hot cocoa with marshmallows, and he's away for hours and hours, which is really ridiculous. But yeah, so he doesn't exactly see all the stuff that's going on, which is funny because Alfred is obviously an integral part of Batman and his missions, etc. To see him in this way. So that was quite interesting. Also, we don't really get opportunity like this often, especially if you're not familiar with the comics, to see Batman in a sort of father role, as a father figure. So that's also quite interesting, and it makes sense that he would just be so worried about his son, he'd do as much as he can to protect him. So I like the overall thing. It's fun. It's like I say, it's a wee sort of children's Christmassy, Christmas adjacent comic book story. I thought it was fine. I thought it was good. It portrays its themes quite well. It's very clear cut in that way, you know, the qualities that you need, while also being a lot of fun. I mean, every kid can empathise with Damian, you know, dressing up as Batman, wanting to be a superhero and all these things. So overall, I think it's a really good package. Again, pretty much like last week, if you're looking for a sort of Christmassy film that is not your typical fare, this is one that I would suggest to you, especially if you've got kids who like comic book stuff, and Batman in particular. This is obviously a lot of fun. You've got a few of his villains pop up. And yeah, also what they do I thought was quite interesting. Kind of typical and a bit predictable, but in a way it fits very well into the story, the way they interact with Damian while he's out and about in Gotham. So I thought that was quite cool. That'll be all from me today. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. It is the best way to support this channel. Leave a comment down below about Merry Little Batman or any other thing you want to say about either this film or other animated films, either Christmassy or Batman related. I mean, there are tons out there, of course. If you just want to talk about Batman himself, do that in the comments down below as well. I won't stop you. I'll thank you for watching this video. I'll wish you a happy new year, you know. Happy Hugmanay, as they say in Scotland. And I'll see you in the next video on Flying Wiener. Take care.